Jessica here from Fox's Blog Knits. Welcome back or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is my knitting video podcast where I share all things knitting, what I'm making, what I've made, what I'm working on, what I'm inspired by, and a whole lot more. So thanks for being here. You're joining me today in the winterless north of New Zealand, where I live in Mangawhai. So Mangawhai is a little beautiful seaside town. It's about an hour north of Auckland, if you know where that is. And despite being called the winterless north, winter has really set in the past week with immense rain. In fact, it's actually raining right now. Perfect for the cat to nap on my knee and do some knitting basically. And today's weather is absolutely crazy. A minute ago it was sunshine, now it's torrential rain. I don't know if you can hear it out there, but anyway, that's why I've moved into the bedroom for today's finished object episode. So welcome to another part of my house. As always, I include show notes and links to what I've mentioned within this video below, so make sure that you check those out at the end of this episode. So if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, and if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. So today I'll be sharing with you a recently finished object. This sweater that I'm wearing, and I briefly touched on this in my monthly vlog video, which I'll link to if you haven't seen it yet. It's the No Frills Sweater by designer Petite Knit, and this is a hugely popular pattern on Ravelry with over 4,100 projects. It's immense, really impressive. And what I love about this pattern is that despite there being so many, I've not yet seen two that are exactly the same. Like every knitter, I guess we put our own spin on things between little tweaks and customizations, and I guess that's one thing I love about knitting. So about the designer. So Petite Knit, for those of you that don't know already, is a pattern designer, and her name is Betty, and she is from Denmark. She creates some of the most popular patterns on Ravelry. She's always on the front page, and it's easy to see why. I, of course, found her on Ravelry myself as well, and I was really drawn to her patterns as the skill level varies from super duper easy to much more advanced, so it's great to kind of go up and up the ranks and work through each skill level, gaining a little more knowledge along the way. I personally love how she writes her patterns. They are more sentence-like than abbreviations, and although the more advanced patterns tend to be more abbreviated, it all really does make sense, and it's nice to read along with. They're not long and waffly. I'd actually say that they're probably just the right amount with enough help along the way. So I made this sweater for my almost 15-year-old daughter Grace, and I actually really wanted to have done this video with her, but school has gone back this week after the holidays, and I think the thought of being on my channel did slightly horrify her, so that's cool, you know. No one wants to hang out with their mum doing this stuff. But I do love that Grace let me make her a sweater. I mentioned in my monthly vlog that I'd actually tried to teach her during level 4 lockdown when we were in lockdown here in New Zealand. I'm not sure if I was brave or mad to try and teach an impatient teenager how to knit, but I did it, and she picked it up really, really well. However, it just kind of wasn't her cup of tea, and that's fine. I actually come from a long line of really creative and crafty family members, and my papa's relatives, his mother and her sisters, were actually lace makers in Europe before they immigrated to New Zealand, and I only learnt that a little while ago, so that was quite cool. I've always loved to sew and knit and crochet, so I was a little gutted that the craftiness skipped it there, but not to worry. Look, she lets me make her things, and that's perfectly fine too. So it's Grace's birthday this August, and she'd seen me create my other sweaters, namely the balloon sweater, so I'll link to my finished object video on that one if you're keen to see how that turned out. Beautiful sweater, love it. And now Grace loved this sweater. She especially liked the bishop style balloon sleeve, but it was a little grown up for her. but I thought the No Frills Sweater would have been a perfect kind of compromise. With having the raglan sleeve, the shape in the shoulder is really, really relaxed and comfortable to wear. I love that the pattern includes around 15 centimetres of positive ease, so it feels comfy and roomy while still being flattering with what she likes to wear, like jeans and shorts and things like that. So on that, the techniques that are used in this pattern, they're not complicated at all. There are left and right leaning increases on each side of the raglan stitch, decreases along the sleeves, and a 1x1 rib. The cast on I did for this, it's just a long tail cast on, but I did use the Italian bind off for the body and the sleeves. This is actually my preferred cast off for any kind of ribbing. It creates such a tidy and beautiful finished garment. The sweater is knit top down, another favourite of mine. So it's easy to adjust as you go for the shoulders, the chest circumference, as well as the body and the sleeve length. It's a whole lot of stockinette stitch, which I know some people can find really, really boring, but I do love how rhythmical stockinette can be. It's so easy to knit away while you're watching something on TV or listening to a podcast. The yarn requirements for this one, like many of her patterns, is a 4-ply base yarn held double with a lace weight mohair. So, excuse me, the yarn I chose was a combination of these. The base yarn is Regia 4 blend, and it's a 75% wool and 20% nylon. And this colour is creatively called multicolour. I think somebody had the holiday on that one. I wouldn't usually pick a nylon blend for a garment, but we really, really loved the confetti speckle, and I knew it would look absolutely gorgeous, and it does. So this was held with Osterman Kid Silk, and this is a 75% mohair and 24% silk. This was actually my first time using mohair, and I did find it super scratchy at first. Usually I would use an alpaca, which is a much softer fluff, but as I continued to knit, it did kind of feel a bit softer, so it was probably all in my head. These yarns I purchased from Lovecrafts in the UK, and I'll link to each of them below. I used almost 5 skeins of the base yarn and just over 4 skeins of the mohair, which I worked out is around 1,000 meters of each. And I actually bought 2 sweaters worth of the confetti 4-ply so that I could make another sweater for myself. However, I think I'm probably just going to pinch Grace's one, if she's not wearing it, of course. Although she has been wearing it and almost living in it since it was blocked and finished, which I guess is a good thing, you know. I mean, you go to all this effort to make something, you want them to wear it. We actually went away with some friends to Raglan this past weekend. Not the Raglan sleeve, but it's a little beachside town just outside of Hamilton. Great surfing, such a cute place. And my beautiful friend Lara saw Grace's sweater and had all the hard eyes about it, so I think I'll have to use my leftover confetti and make one for her. So there you go. She's probably watching this. Anyway, I used a 5mm needle for the body and a 3mm for the rib to meet the pattern gauge. And the size that I made this in was a small, despite it going down to an extra small. And modifications, so as I mentioned, Grace is quite tall. She's taller than me. She's around 5'8", and naturally I needed to make it slightly longer in the body. I ended up adding, I think it was 8 centimeters before finishing with the 1x1 rib, just so that it would sit around her hip and still have some nice slouch. So the main modifications I made to this were actually in the sleeves. As I had mentioned, Grace really wanted a more bishop style balloon sleeve. The pattern calls for 17 decreases evenly spaced along the sleeve as you work towards the cuff, which is much more tapered and more a traditional sweater sleeve, I would imagine. I, in the end, just did 6 decreases before continuing to work in the round until I reached the sleeve length that we needed, which in this case was 34 centimeters long. Once at the correct length, I divided the stitches that I had left to an evenly spaced amount. I think it was 7 stitches, and from there, the next round I did a decrease every 7 stitches. Next round, no decreases. Every round thereafter, I then reduced the number of stitches between the decreases in the round. So it went 6, 7, 6, then 5, and what have you, until I had the required number of stitches to create the cuff. I didn't make the cuffs too tight, but I think that they came out beautifully. A full balloon type sleeve, but not as exaggerated as my own balloon sweater, so it's perfect for Grace and her age. So finishing for the sweater, I mentioned before that I felt the yarn was a little more scratchy than I would have liked, and I had done a full wet block on my gauge swatch, which was so much softer than the finished sweater itself, so I knew that by doing a full block like that, it would soften up really nicely. And I did add a little bit of my own hair conditioner to the water as well, with some eucalyptus, which is the most beautiful detergent to use for all of woolens. My conditioner is Kevin Murphy, which, if you haven't heard of, is an Australian eco-friendly salon quality range, and it's deliciously wonderful for your hair and expensive, but being so kind and gentle, I knew it would be a real treat for the sweater, and I am so glad that I did add a little bit of it to the water. It really softened everything up, and it's made it much less irritating, especially around the neck, where it is often, it's right up against your skin there. So, what are my final thoughts on this pattern? I think that this is a really, really good staple pattern to have in your library. This is so easily modified to suit your own personal taste. It's really well written, and it's quite forgiving with the gauge if you did want to adjust the yarn that you've made this with a little bit. It's the perfect sweater for everyday wear, and it really does look great with jeans and skirts and all that stuff, so it's great. The techniques used in this pattern, I think, are perfect for a beginner, and if there's something that you aren't sure of, because there are so many comments and other projects within Ravelry, you can actually search through to see if somebody else has gotten stuck at the exact same point as you, which is so helpful. I loved making this, and I think I'll definitely be making another one at some stage in the future. Probably for myself. Probably Lara. So let me know in the comments if you're planning on making your own No Frills sweater, or anything else that I've made for that matter. I'd love to hear about what you're up to yourself. And also, do you have any extra tips for any new beginners to add? Let me know in the comments below, and that would be amazing. So yeah, thank you so much for being with me here again today. If you've enjoyed this finished object episode, please give it a like, and do make sure that you subscribe to my channel for the next Fox's Blog Knits episode. We'll see you soon. Bye.